Am I the a-hole for not giving my biological dad my kidney and waiting for my adoptive dad's kidney surgery? I was adopted at age 4. I have never physically met my biological father. When I turned 19, my biological mom reached out to me, since the restraining orders were lifted once I turned 19. She and I had a rocky start. She mentioned being friends with my biological father on Facebook to my sister. My sister told me, and I reached out. He was happy to hear from me, and he was very open and kind. He answered all the hard questions honestly, and we developed a bond through text. When my biological mom found out, she mocked me, saying he told her I was weird for not speaking with them on the phone and only talking through text. I took this opportunity to ask my dad if we could chat on the phone. We began having short phone calls that I cherished. After a few years, we spoke about visiting. I wanted to travel to meet him and his family. However, I didn't have the funds yet. My adoptive father had been supportive and listened to all my concerns, helping me navigate the new challenges with my biological parents. Some years passed, and my adoptive father became ill. He had kidney failure and needed a new kidney. I worked hard to get my health in check in case I was a match. However, my adoptive father would not let me check to see if I was a match, nor would he allow his 3 biological children to be tested. We waited, and eventually a donor was found. During this time, I found out my biological father also had kidney failure and would need a kidney as well. I did not offer to help, nor did he ask. My biological dad became sicker and sicker while my adoptive dad became well again. My fiancé and I eloped. We still planned a wedding for the following year but wanted to be married. During our planning, I found out I was pregnant. I told my family, his family, and my biological father/mother. Everyone was elated. A few weeks before the wedding, I received a call from my biological dad's sister. They had been trying to reach me. My biological dad died during surgery. I felt horrible knowing we'd never meet in person. I beat myself up internally for not trying harder to visit. His family did not receive me well. They sent very mean and hurtful messages, saying I wasn't his child and that I'm not family, and that I was trying to get his money. They refused to acknowledge me and did not invite me to the funeral. I felt so small and insignificant. My biological mother found out and she cursed every one of his relatives out until they finally left me alone. She told me she was sorry for my loss and that she was there if I needed anything. Through my loss, I gained her acceptance, and we speak more frequently, even over the phone. I still have guilt because many of my biological father's relatives hate me for not giving him any kidney, and I have guilt for not seeing him or at least getting tested to see if I was a match. I hold this guilt, but should I have gotten tested and try to ease his pain? Now for the top comments. Don't blame yourself for that. When your dad was well, he could have made many efforts to go see you. Let that blame go and live your life. There's no guarantee you would have been a match even if you'd offered. And there is no guarantee that he would have survived the surgery. Not the a-hole. Donating a kidney is no small thing, especially for a young woman who still wants children. And you can survive without functioning kidneys for quite a long time, so you can wait for an organ without negatively impacting your child's future. Your fathers both decided to wait. That was their decision. They wanted you to have a normal future. If your biological father's family wanted to meet you, they could have invited you and covered the costs. They didn't. You did nothing wrong. His side still won't acknowledge me nor have anything to do with me at this point. I'm only in contact with his sister who called to give me the bad news. I gave her full medical proxy of his estate and body. You've gotten along fine without them this long. You were raised by your family. Those other people are strangers. Let it be. Giving up a kidney is a huge thing, and he never asked you, so you have no reason to feel bad. Second, if your bio mom didn't inherit everything from your bio dad, then it kind of sounds like you could have been in your bio dad's will. I say this because, at least in the US, wills are typically written to specifically name your then living children and also say something should go to any other bio children you may have. If that's the case, then that's why they refused to acknowledge you and accused you of trying to get his money. I told his sister to use it towards his burial. It wasn't a lot. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my parents move into my new house? I, 34 male, recently bought my first home after years of hard work and saving. It's a modest but beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood, and I'm incredibly proud of achieving this milestone. My parents, both in their late 60s, currently live in a rented apartment, and while they're not struggling financially, they've expressed concerns about retirement and wanting a more stable living arrangement. After I announced my house purchase, they approached me with the idea of moving in with me. They said it would give them a chance to downsize, save money, and spend more time with me. While I love my parents and respect everything they've done for me, I was honest and told them that I wanted this house to be my personal space. I've lived with them most of my life, and I was looking forward to having my independence. They didn't take it well. They accused me of being ungrateful, reminding me that they sacrificed a lot to support me through college and early adulthood. They even suggested that I owe it to them to give back now that I'm in a better financial position. Some extended family members also chimed in, saying I should honor my parents by letting them live with me. I tried explaining that while I'm happy to help them in other ways, like assisting with rent or finding a better place for them, I'm not ready to share my home. It's not about them personally. It's about finally having a space that's mine. Despite this, they continue to pressure me, and now I'm starting to feel like I might actually be selfish for saying no. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to let my parents move into my new house? Not the a-hole. The minute you allow them into your home, they will try to go back to the parent/child relationship and try to control every aspect of your life while having no respect for you. Don't do it. Save your sanity. Definitely this. They will take over everything. Your friends are too loud. Why are they here again? We don't like your groceries. Can you drive me into such and such? Why are you going out? Again? There will be seriously worn places on your sofa from them watching their shows. It will be a nightmare, and they will never leave. They should be proud of you for buying your own house, not trying to hijack your independence and home. Not the a-hole. Don't be silly. He won't have his sofa. The house will be full of his parents' furniture. And I'm sure they will take the master bedroom. There's 2 of them, so they need it more. Not the a-hole. You're allowed to have boundaries. Helping them financially is more than enough. You don't owe anyone your independence just because they are family. Exactly. Setting boundaries is important for maintaining your own well-being. And offering financial help doesn't mean sacrificing your independence. Plus, they're in their 60s. OP could be stuck with them for 30 to 40 years. They just hit retirement age, if they've even gotten there yet. They can take care of themselves, even if they don't want to do so. Kids don't owe their parents anything, and it's manipulation and emotional abuse to claim otherwise. Not the a-hole. You have every right to have your own space. Because let me tell you, once you start helping them, their entitlement will reach new highs. Just you watch. Seen it time and time again. Stand your ground. Keep healthy boundaries. And remember, they did their job as parents. And it's not for a payday at the end. They made those choices and they need to be okay with them. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister Sam that since her deadbeat boyfriend is back, I shouldn't have to cancel my life to help her with her kids anymore all the time? So I, female 21, have a sister Sam who has a deadbeat boyfriend Tavian. Tavian left 2 months ago but came back a week ago trying to play happy family. While he was gone, I filled the role of another parent. I had no problem doing this. But now he's back, and Sam asked me this morning, even though we got into it last night, that Tavian isn't feeling well, and I need to step up again and watch her kids. Now, I have appointments almost all day that I can't cancel. Plus, I have to go to the post office before they close, and also have a job interview today at 4. She didn't like this and told me it's my job as an aunt to step up when the parent can't. I told her she's ridiculous. Since I'm choosing not to have kids right now, I shouldn't have to be another parent to someone else's kids. I told her that I don't care if he is sick. He was away for 2 months, and all of a sudden he's back but isn't feeling well? Not my problem. She got mad at me and I hung up the phone. Tavian found me at the post office and started yelling at me outside, saying I'm a terrible aunt and that the kids look up to me. I told him at least I didn't leave for 2 months with literally no goodbye to anyone, and then suddenly came back pretending to care. Tavian told Sam what happened and she tried to get Kay and Nat involved. They both told her that I was clearly stating boundaries and that since Sam likes her boundaries to be respected, she needs to respect mine. So now I'm thinking of either going low contact or even no contact for my own mental health. So am I the a-hole for telling Sam that since her deadbeat boyfriend is back, I shouldn't have to cancel my life to help her with her kids all the time anymore? You should not have to cancel your life to help her with her kids all the time. Period. If you do, you're doing her a favor. It's not an obligation. Apart from that, the fact that their dad is not fulfilling his actual obligations is obviously bad. Why is it so hard for people in these situations to say this and mean it? Did not do the banging, not doing the rearing. That would be my answer to them both, and it wouldn't even be a long conversation or debate. That sentence is complete. Oh, so he was well enough to go to the post office, but not well enough to take care of his own kid? Tavian is a loser. Make sure he and your sister both know that. Not the a-hole. Their spawn, their problem. Yup, he actually hit me very hard as well. Some big guy had to step between us since I was about to explode. I don't put up with anyone, man or woman, hitting me for no reason. Next story. Am I the a-hole for insisting my brother and sister-in-law will be parents of the groom at mine and my fiancé's wedding? I, 26 male, was raised by my brother and sister-in-law. My brother is 14 years older than me, and he and sister-in-law met in high school and started dating. He was already bringing me up because our parents did not want to parent again. They weren't great to my brother, but at least kept him alive. Without my brother, that wouldn't have been true for me. I was dumped into his arms the day I was born, and they told him to figure it out. When he moved out, I moved with them, and sister-in-law's parents became my grandparents. We lived as a family from that point on. I call them mom and dad even though they never adopted me. Their kids together are my siblings, and we were raised as siblings with me as the big brother. They were there for everything and even helped me get into college. I met my fiancée in college, and she knows my family history as do her family. This was never a problem before wedding planning began, but some of her relatives, and she has stood up to them when it comes to this, have complained about my parents being listed as such, instead of being listed as brother and sister-in-law of the groom. They say it already sounds weird that I call people who look only a few years older than me mom and dad, but for the wedding, it will look awful, and like we're wild people to call people who could pass for just 10 years older parents of the groom. My fiancé said it's not those relatives' decisions and that they need to respect ours or they won't be at the wedding. They said I should realize, or someone in my family should realize, how trashy it will look to people and how my brother and sister-in-law will look to others. For those who ask, my family knows how my parents, siblings, and grandparents will be listed. I won't say they were demanding it, but it was expected since I called them mom and dad. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Whoever is creating drama because of this can get over themselves. How dare they demand you demean your brother and sister-in-law's efforts, raising you just for their special fees? They're the only parents you have ever known, and they deserve that recognition. I can't imagine the hurt they'd feel if they were erased on your special day. You're definitely not the a-hole. Your brother and sister-in-law raised you, and they deserve to be recognized as your parents on your special day. It's unfair for anyone to expect you to downplay that bond just to avoid making things uncomfortable for them. I'm just glad it's outsiders having a problem with it, and not your brother and sister-in-law suddenly refusing and turning their backs on you, as I feared when I read the title. Your wedding, your family, your choice. Everyone else needs to sit down and be quiet. Those worried about how trashy it will look to people can stay home so they won't be embarrassed. You and your fiancé don't need or want people like that in your lives. You're not the a-hole, but judgmental people are. Just curious, are you inviting your parents? I'm not inviting the people who made me. They're strangers to me and we don't have anything to do with them now. Last story. My dad's affair is going to break our family apart. Dad's affair has broken our family. I, 30 female, recently found out my dad, 57 male, has been having an affair with a work colleague. My mom, 54 female, and I are extremely close, and our family is very close. We speak daily and hang out almost weekly. I have no words to express the anger and hurt I am feeling. I know my dad didn't cheat on me, but in a way, it almost feels like he put his relationship with me and my 2-year-old son at risk by doing this. He knows I would never forgive him for something like this, nor would my mom and sisters. I've always idolized my dad and my parents' relationship. Now I don't even want to see him or speak to him. He doesn't know that we know yet. My mom hasn't confronted him, but we've seen the messages, and they paint a pretty clear picture. I don't know how I am ever meant to forgive him or move past this. He's completely destroyed my mom and our family by doing this. I just feel like I'm living in a really bad dream. My family is everything to me, and the thought of us not being all together and happy is soul-destroying. Am I in the wrong for not wanting to forgive him? Edited to add, the other thing that is killing me is that this woman he's having an affair with is the same age as my eldest sister, 34, just 4 years older than me. It just feels so strange to me. I can't explain how much I never ever imagined my dad would ever do this to my mom. It's really turned everything on its head for me. I know my dad didn't cheat on me. He did. A cheater betrays those they're in a relationship with and a family they're ruining. By extension, the family members are also betrayed. So yes, he did betray you at the same time he betrayed your mom. You and your siblings are entitled to hold him accountable for ruining the family. One could argue that failing to do so, not ensuring there are harsh consequences for what he's done, is in fact enabling him. I would advise not holding back when telling him exactly how despicable he is and going low contact with him while maximizing your support for your mom. My significant other always says choosing to have an affair is making a conscious choice to tear your family apart. I am sorry that you are all dealing with this. You're not wrong. There is no excuse for cheating. If you are unhappy, separate, then see other people. But cheating? It is the ultimate betrayal of trust and a demonstration of total disrespect. Support your mother. Your father has shown how little he values your mother and his family. He does not deserve that family. You would be more than justified in cutting him off. I certainly would if it were me. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my dad my inheritance, even though he says he needs it more? Okay, so I, 28 female, need to know if I'm out of line here because my family is making me feel like the worst person alive right now. Sorry if this is a mess, but I'm just so mad while writing this. For context, my mom passed away when I was 18. She was the best, the only person in my life who ever really cared about me. My dad, 55 male, was around, but honestly, he wasn't great. He cheated on my mom when I was 13, and while she stayed for my sake, I never forgave him. He moved in with his affair partner about a month after the divorce, and she's been his main focus ever since. Anyway, my mom didn't have much, but she left me a small inheritance. Not huge, around $50,000, but it was everything she had. Her will was super clear that it was for me to build my future. She knew how much I wanted to go to art school but couldn't afford it back then. I ended up working my way through school, so I kept the money in savings, planning to use it for a house or a small business someday. Fast forward to now, I'm finally in a stable place. About to start looking at houses with my partner, 29 male, and suddenly my dad pops out of nowhere. He's never really asked me for anything before, or, been around, but now he's saying he needs help. Apparently, his wife got into a debt from gambling, and now they're at risk of losing their house. He says it's temporary and he'll pay me back. But I know that BS. He's never been good with money. And his wife? Let's just say she doesn't exactly scream responsible. I told him no, that this money was for mom and she wanted it for me. He got all defensive, saying she'd want me to help family and that I'm being selfish for hoarding money I don't even need right now. Like, are you kidding me? Now my dad's side of the family is all up in my business, saying I should be the bigger person and help him out in his time of need. My aunt even called me to say that I'm disrespecting his role as my father. What role? The man barely raised me. I feel bad because, yeah, it's a lot of money, and I guess they could lose their house. But at the same time, why is it my responsibility to bail them out when they've done nothing for me? My mom trusted me with this money, and I feel like giving it to him would just be spitting on her memory. Am I the a-hole for saying no? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your mom died and left everything she had to the daughter she loved, not the ex who cheated on her. Forget everything else. Would your mother want you to give everything she ever saved to her ex and the woman he cheated on her with? Ignore them both. Use the money however you choose, and rest easy knowing it's what your beloved mother would have wanted. Yeah, mother would roll over in her grave if Opie gave any money to her father. Not the a-hole. That's your money and no one else's. All of these posts about family and money on this sub are crazy. Does this thing actually happen? Sadly, yes. Family is the worst because they feel entitled. One of the many reasons I'm no contact with my younger sister. Next story. Am I the a-hole for tearing down my half-sister when she asked me why I couldn't have saved my mom's name for her to use for a future daughter? I, 27 female, gave birth to my first child a month ago. My husband and I named her after my late mom, with a favorite name of ours as her middle name. My mom died 10 years ago, and using her name was always something I wanted to do. When my half-sister, 24 female, first heard the name, she got a little pouty and asked why I didn't see if she wanted to use the name instead. She said she had always imagined giving her first daughter my mom's, not her mom's, name. I told her I'd always intended to use my mom's name. My half-sister said my mom was basically the closest person she ever had to a mom, and that she was always so sweet and accepting of her, and that using her name would have been a nice way to show respect and appreciation. She said I didn't need to use it. I said, I'm my mom's daughter, so of course I get to use it. My half-sister replied that we were all family. I emphasized in response that I was my mom's only child. My half-sister said that might be true, but my mom had accepted her into the family as well. This is where I might be the a-hole, because I told her that wasn't true. I said my mom hardly had anything to do with her. I explained that my mom didn't want to take her frustrations out on kids, so she tried to be kind when she couldn't avoid her, but she absolutely didn't love or accept her. I told her to get real if she thought the woman who was cheated on would love and accept the child that came from the affair. I told her she shouldn't be trying to imply she had more of a right to my mom's name than I do when she was nothing to my mom, and her child wouldn't be either. She left in tears. Background: my parents were married and had me. Mom found out dad cheated on her and got his other woman pregnant, so she divorced him. She had primary custody of me. My dad ended up with sole custody of my half-sister. My dad made every effort to stay in my life, but he always brought my half-sister when he came to support me. My mom hated it. She never said that directly to me, but I overheard her talking to my aunt or grandma about how much she despised seeing my half-sister there. She said it was tough when my half-sister would reach out to her, but she didn't want to be mean to her face. My mom also told my dad she didn't want to be active in my half-sister's life. Over the years, my half-sister tried to spend more time with my mom. She would pack to come with me when I was going home to mom, or she'd rush out the door when mom picked me up, trying to hug and talk to her. My mom wasn't warm to her, but my half-sister ignored it. When my mom died, my family and I had a private cremation, and my half-sister was upset she couldn't attend. My dad and I stopped speaking after that, because he said I should have ensured my half-sister could be there. He never discouraged her from pining for my mom, even though my mom had told him she didn't want a relationship with her. Since my half-sister ran out crying, she's texted me, saying I was cruel and didn't need to crush her hope that my mom loved her. She said she'd hoped to be wanted by at least one female figure in her life. She also said I never wanted to be with her and dad, and then I didn't want her with me and mom either. Am I the a-hole? Honestly, I blame your father for all of this. Your sister clearly spent her childhood wishing for a mother in her life, and instead of taking responsibility for his failures, your father tried to push the woman he cheated on into being a surrogate mother to his affair baby. I hope when things are calmer, you can encourage your sister to seek therapy to address how much your father's poor parenting messed her up. True, the father's actions and lack of responsibility are at the root of this whole issue. He created a deeply unfair situation for everyone involved, especially his daughters. It's clear why your half-sister might struggle with feelings of rejection and a longing for a maternal figure, especially if her father failed to provide adequate emotional support and guidance. Not the a-hole. Wow, your half-sister is projecting hard. She may have idolized your mom in her head, but that doesn't change the reality of the situation. Your mom didn't want a relationship with her because of the circumstances, and that's not your fault to sugarcoat or fix. Honestly, she put you in an awkward position by even asking to use your mom's name for her hypothetical kid. You have every right to honor your mom however you see fit. She was your mom, period. I bet the dad planted this seed in the half-sister's head that his ex loved her, and it grew into a delusional tree. They both need a major reality check. Exactly. Dad should have found another woman to be a female role model instead of his cheating victim. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to share my college savings with my step-siblings because my mom saved it for me? Hi everyone. I'm Sienna, 19 female, and I'm currently a student. Growing up, I lived mostly with my mom after my parents divorced, but I spent weekends and holidays with my dad, his wife, my stepmom, and their 2 kids, 8 female and 6 male. While I love my dad, I've always felt like an outsider in his new family. When I was younger, my mom started a college savings fund for me. She worked so hard to build it up over the years, and it's the reason I've been able to go to college without drowning in debt. My dad didn't contribute much to it. He said he had other expenses, especially with my younger siblings, but I've always been grateful for what my mom did. Last weekend, during a family dinner, my stepmom casually mentioned that my younger siblings are going to need help paying for college someday. Then she turned to me and asked if I'd be willing to share some of my college fund with them since we're all family. I was completely caught off guard. I told her I couldn't because that money is specifically for my education, and my mom worked really hard to save it for me. She got upset and said I was being selfish, arguing that my siblings are young and will need support when they're older. My dad chimed in, saying it would mean a lot to the family if I contributed, even just a small portion. I told them I understood their concern, but that this wasn't something I could do. My stepmom ended the conversation by calling me ungrateful and storming out of the room. Since then, my dad has been distant, and my stepmom barely speaks to me unless it's to throw a passive-aggressive comments my way. Even my mom thinks I should have entertained the conversation at all, but I didn't want to cause a bigger fight. Now I'm wondering if I handled this the wrong way. Am I the a-hole for refusing to share my college fund with my step-siblings? Not the a-hole. That's your college money. You need to use that for your education. At the next conversation, OP should remind both stepmom and dad, yes, they will need help paying for their college like I do. My mom saved up tooth and nail for me. Neither of you contributed to it. I suggest you start, as a matter of conscientiousness, making contributions to their college funds so they get the help they need. It's not my responsibility to sponsor my siblings. It's your responsibility to sponsor your children. OP, focus on your mom. If your dad and his wife want to be passive-aggressive, spend time at your mom's and avoid them for your peace of mind. You should absolutely not share, because by the looks of it, those two think what belongs to your step-siblings is theirs and what is yours also belongs to your step-siblings. Remove yourself from that complication and cherish your mother. She sounds phenomenal. My mother cared enough to save for her offspring. Dad, I'm sorry that your new wife doesn't care enough about her offspring to save for them. But it was your choice to marry her after you left my mother. Not the a-hole. Is your stepmom smoking crack? Good for you for standing your ground. Your stepmom wants your mom's money? Crazy. OP's mom needs to speak to the stepmom and say, "Which? Save for your own kids' college funds, instead of coming after money I saved for my own child. Stop embarrassing yourself and being entitled." Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to name my baby after my partner's family tradition? Female 27, male 30. I, 27 female, am currently 8 months pregnant with my first child, a baby girl, with my partner Luke, 30 male. We're beyond excited to meet her and have been working on all the preparations, nursery, baby gear, parenting books, you name it. But we've hit a massive wall over one thing, her name. Luke's family has a tradition where every firstborn girl is named Agatha. His great-grandmother, grandmother, and mother all have this name, and apparently it's non-negotiable for his family that we carry it on. To be clear, Agatha is a fine name, but it's just not the vibe I want for our daughter. I've always loved unique, modern names, and I feel like our daughter should have her own identity, not a hand-me-down name that she didn't choose. I've tried compromising. I suggested using Agatha as her middle name or even giving her a modern name with a similar vibe, like Isla or Athena. But Luke and his family are adamant. They've called me selfish, disrespectful, and even said I'm trying to erase their legacy. His mom keeps sending me baby blankets embroidered with Baby Agatha like it's already decided, and his grandmother made a big speech at Thanksgiving about how she's so proud to welcome another Agatha to the family. I've told Luke that while I respect his family's tradition, this is our daughter, and I want us to agree on a name that feels right to both of us. He says I'm overcomplicating this and should just honor the tradition since it's clearly important to them. Here's the kicker. I found out that Luke himself hates his own family name, which was passed down to him through their boy tradition. He goes by his middle name because he thinks Horace, his real first name, is embarrassing. When I brought this up, he said, "Yeah, but that's different." Now I'm getting the silent treatment from his mom, guilt trips from his grandma, and Luke is acting like I'm being unreasonable for standing my ground. My friends are split. Some say I should just give in to avoid family drama, while others agree this is a hill worth dying on. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for refusing to name my baby after my partner's sacred family tradition? Now for the top comments. Definitely not the a-hole. It's your child, not a family heirloom. Traditions are nice, but they shouldn't override what feels right for you as parents. Stick to your guns and choose a name you both love. Thank you. That's exactly how I feel. Traditions are great, but they shouldn't feel like chains. I just want my daughter to have a name that feels special to her, not one chosen out of pressure. Do you now call him Horace? I fully would only use that from now until he drops the name for your child. Not the a-hole. It's reasonable to want a name you both love for your daughter. You've already compromised by offering Agatha as a middle name, but Luke and his family's insistence is unfair. His own discomfort with his name adds inconsistency. It's your child, and both parents should have equal input. Thank you for understanding. Offering it as a middle name felt like a fair compromise to honor their tradition without it defining her identity. It's frustrating that Luke doesn't see the double standard. Refuse to call him anything but Horace until he starts supporting you, the person growing the daughter currently camped out on your bladder. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my boyfriend's sister live with us after she was kicked out by her own parents? My boyfriend, 28 male, and I, 27 female, have been together for 5 years, and we've been living together for the past 2. We're happy and generally get along well. But recently, his younger sister, 21 female, was kicked out of their parents' house after an argument. She didn't have anywhere to go and asked if she could move in with us. I immediately said no. I said no because she's messy, loud, and incredibly entitled. I've had issues with her in the past because she used to come over unannounced, eat our food, and leave a mess in our apartment. On top of that, she's been known to borrow money from family and conveniently forget to pay it back. I tried to explain to my boyfriend that I wasn't comfortable with her living with us, especially since we only have a 1-bedroom apartment. I also work from home, so having her around all the time would disrupt my routine. He argued that it's temporary and that families should help each other out. When I stood my ground, he called me selfish and accused me of not supporting him when his family needed help. His sister also heard about my refusal and started bad-mouthing me to other family members, saying I'm heartless and trying to ruin their bond. Now my boyfriend is upset, and his sister is furious. Should I have accepted for the sake of peace? I feel bad, but I also believe we're entitled to our own space and boundaries. So am I the a-hole for refusing to let her move in? Not the a-hole. Your space and boundaries matter. It's not your job to fix their family drama, especially when it's clear should disrupt your life. Your boyfriend needs to respect that. Your boyfriend's sister has a pattern of bad behavior, and that alone is a valid reason to not want her living with you. It's important to stand firm on boundaries, even if it causes some tension in the family. Your comfort is important too. The boyfriend is also showing a pattern of bad behavior towards his girlfriend. Not the a-hole. There are a number of reasons why staying together won't work. If she can fight with her parents, I'm sure you'll keep having issues every day. She should go and patch things up with her parents. Would I be the a-hole for ghosting my ex-wife? I, 32 male, met Sarah, 30 female, in grade school in our small town. She was my first everything, girlfriend, love, and eventually wife. We both went to college together, and after I graduated, we got married when I was 23 and she was 21. Sarah was still finishing her degree, and I worked hard to support both of us while she completed her studies. When she got her first job, I was so proud of her. It felt like our sacrifices and hard work were paying off, and I thought we were on our way to building a life together. For 2 years, everything seemed fine, or at least I thought so. Then one day, I came home from work and found her packing a bag. She sat me down and told me she had been having an affair with a coworker. I was completely oblivious. She was crying and apologetic. She said she loved me, but she was in love with a coworker and they had this chemistry and a deep connection. And that she never felt this level of excitement and attachment with me. At the same time, she seemed to be really apologetic and acted very guilty. She moved in with a coworker that night. Sarah made a divorce as quick and easy as possible. She didn't contest anything and took almost nothing. In the state we live in, you can get a divorce in 10 days if there aren't any children involved. We filed the papers ourselves. No lawyer. Couldn't afford one. After it was final, she asked if we could be friends. And I'm ashamed to say that I just broke down and sobbed like a baby in front of her, said nothing and left. At that point, she was 23 and I was 25. A couple of years later, in early 2020, while riding out COVID in my hometown, my mom casually mentioned that Sarah had married a guy she left me for. Apparently, Sarah's parents and mine had talked about it since they're longtime friends, and Sarah's parents were hesitant about the marriage, but supported her. Hearing that stung. I had done everything I could to move on, but knowing she had married her affair partner felt like reopening the wound. I told my mom, as kindly as I could, that I didn't want to hear about Sarah anymore. She understood and never brought her up again. I was broken and depressed at first, but I went to see a therapist and got on some meds. I got some certifications, and through a friend from college, I got an interview with a global consulting company. My friend was married and couldn't do the amount of travel that the job required, so he pushed hard for me for the position. I started traveling around the world and pretty much worked all the time at first. On any given day, I was either in the gym, working, or having a virtual therapy session at 3 a.m. I was a dull boy. I got into incredible shape thanks to lifting and running. Eventually, I got a long-term project in Romania and was able to meet and have relationships with women. Fast forward a few years. Recently, I had a few weeks of vacation saved up, and I wanted to spend Christmas in Reykjavik, Iceland. I went to my parents' place in my hometown for Thanksgiving with my sister and brother. Last Thursday, I was at the local independent drugstore in what passes for downtown in my hometown. It has a lunch counter like an old-fashioned drugstore. I got a cup of coffee and sat down at the counter drinking it when Sarah sat down beside me and said hello. She was super nervous and red in the face. I was shocked and just sat there looking at her. I was exploding inside, but I kept my cool outwardly. She was still beautiful. She was actually very fit herself and had lost her baby face and became maybe even more beautiful. She started off by apologizing for the way she ended our marriage. I told her she already apologized like 100 times when she dumped me, but she insisted that she was young and stupid, and over time, she realized how much she had hurt me. She wanted to meet me later in a less crowded spot with fewer spies. Small town, remember? I shook my head no and told her frankly that I didn't see what I could possibly get out of meeting with her again. That kind of took the wind out of her sails and she kind of deflated. She admitted that it was probably more for her than for me. She said that I'd get closure not only for how she ended things, but for the kind of person she was back then. She wanted to tell me about how she's changed and what she'd learn about herself and what real love is. She wanted me to see that the person she became is someone that I could respect and maybe be friends with again. I wanted to get the heck out of there, so I just told her I'd think about it. She gave me her number and I went home. Apparently, my mom and sister had already heard about it from Sarah's mom. So I'm a big dumb victim of some kind of big dumb Hallmark Christmas movie hit job. My sister, 29 female, and mom, 55 female, told me that they kept up with Sarah since our divorce, and they know that she's changed and that I should hear her out. My dad, 56 male, just shook his head and walked off. My brother, 22 male, thought all of this was hilarious. I asked if he wanted to chime in, and he just shrugged his shoulders and said that since Sarah and I knew each other from when we were kids, I should at least hear her out, just to keep the peace between our families since we live in a small town. Personally, I do think that her family would feel insulted if I didn't at least talk with her. I know for a fact that she's living with her parents now, so it seems like her life completely crapped the bed. I'd kind of like to get the gory details as maybe a form of schadenfreude, but it's all behind me now, and I think it would all just make me sad. I guess I am a better man now that I'm more mature, more wealthy, and fitter than I was when I was with her. But I'm still the same guy that she didn't have chemistry or connection with back in the day. So I think whatever comes out of her mouth would be BS. I think she's probably a dragon cosplaying as a princess and wants me to be her white knight. F that. My mom and sister are pushing hard for me to meet her, and my mom says that she's afraid if I don't at least hear Sarah out, that Sarah's mom will resent her and make her social life more complicated. Let me make it clear that I have no intention of getting back with Sarah. Sarah's very beautiful, but so are the women of Romania, Iceland, and elsewhere, and they have the added bonus of not breaking my heart. I'm interested in going just to hear about what happened to her after she dumped me and to smooth things over for my folks. What do you think, Reddit? Should I go? I kind of want to. Talk me down off the ledge. Would I be the a-hole if I ghosted my ex-wife? Now for the top comments. Sounds like you don't need a closure, so why pick at healed wounds? Tell your mom and sister if they want to hear Sarah talk so much, they can go in your place, but to leave you out of it. Yeah, that's what I don't get. In these small towns, they could easily find out the intentions. Especially if they're like the one I grew up in, with all the families being all entangled in the social events and everyone knows everyone's business. Which means mom and sis already know, and they want the two of them to get back together. It's all cutesy. Bro needs to get on a plane fast. Anyone else find it suspicious that cheating ex just happened on him at a lunch counter? Mom set him up. Don't go. You don't have to ghost her. You can tell her you aren't interested in rehashing the past and you wish her well. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to share my bonus with my fiancé's family? I, 30 male, work in tech and had a fantastic year at my job. I recently received a significant year-end bonus, $50,000, and I was thrilled. I've been saving for years to buy a house, and this bonus is going directly into my house fund. My fiancé, 28 female, knows this and was initially very supportive. Then she dropped a bomb on me. She asked if I could spare $25,000 of my bonus to help her parents pay off their mortgage. Apparently, her parents have been struggling financially, and she feels it's only fair, since we're going to be married and they're going to be my family too. I said no. I've worked extremely hard for this money, and while I feel for her parents, I don't think it's my responsibility to bail them out, especially when I've never even been asked directly by them. Her response? She called me selfish and accused me of not caring about her family. She then brought up how her parents have sacrificed so much for her and it's the least I could do. She's been cold to me ever since. She's also told her parents about my bonus without my permission, and now I'm getting guilt-tripped by them. They haven't outright asked for money, but they've made several comments about how lucky I am to have extra cash and how some people don't get that kind of opportunity. When I mentioned that I plan to use the money to help secure our future with a house, my fiancé said, "What future? You're already showing you don't care about the people who matter to me." I don't think I should have to justify how I use my bonus, but now even my own friends are split on whether I'm being reasonable or stingy. Am I the a-hole? Run. Far and fast. Red flags. He's lucky she showed him her cards before marrying her. Broke, cut and run. Not the a-hole. Get the ring back too. Leave. Just leave. Your fiancé has revealed who she is before the wedding. Asking you to subsidize her parents is so inappropriate. If this becomes an issue, your fiancé and her parents will remember and forever mar your marriage. I'd kick myself for marrying her. Your fiancé has made it clear where you stand in relation to her parents. She overshared about your salary. That her parents have the audacity to make snide comments hoping to steer you towards donating to them is insulting and inappropriate. When I mentioned that I plan to use the money to help secure our future with a house, my fiancé said, "What future? You're already showing you don't care about the people who matter to me. Stick a fork in it. This relationship is toast." I say confirm what your fiancé is proclaiming and surprisingly agree with her. Then she can give all the money her parents need. Not the a-hole and keep an eye on your wallet. And don't get her pregnant. Why isn't she helping her parents if they are so important to her? Are you the one always paying for everything? Are you supporting her? Think about it long and hard. And I'm sure you'll see this isn't the first time situations like this have occurred. She is trying to help them to OP's money. Next story. Am I the a-hole for struggling to help my daughter cope with her father's work accident? I, 27 female, have a 6-year-old daughter with my ex-boyfriend. Although we're no longer together, he has always been a loving and devoted father. They share a very close bond, and she adores him. Her father was in a terrible work accident that left him in a coma. The doctors can't say when or if he'll wake up, and the uncertainty has been unbearable. I've been trying to stay strong for my daughter, but it's been incredibly hard. She doesn't fully understand what happened and has been struggling ever since. At school, she's been acting out, refusing to listen to her teacher and getting into arguments with her classmates. At home, she's throwing tantrums over the smallest things, yelling, and even saying things like she hates me or that I'm lying about her dad. It's been heartbreaking. I've taken her to visit her father a few times, hoping it would help her feel more connected and understand what's happening. Each time, she starts crying and clings to his hand, begging him to wake up. Watching her so heartbroken is gut-wrenching, and I often feel completely helpless. I've tried everything I can think of to help her. Extra patience, spending more quality time together, and reassuring her that she's loved. But it doesn't seem to be enough. After a particularly tough week, I decided to put her in therapy, hoping a professional could help her process her emotions. She's had 2 sessions so far, and while I know it takes time, her behavior hasn't improved yet, and I feel like I'm failing her. Some family members think I'm overreacting. They've told me that kids are resilient and that she'll get over it in time, suggesting that I'm making her more anxious by talking about her father's accident too much. Others have been more supportive, but their mixed opinions have left me second-guessing myself. I'm trying so hard to do what's best for my daughter, but I'm terrified that I'm not handling this the right way. Am I overreacting by putting her in therapy, or am I not doing enough to help her cope? Am I the a-hole for struggling to figure out how to help my daughter through this? Not the a-hole. My father was in a coma for a year after a drunk driver crashed into him. It was and is awful. 35 years later, I am still grieving. You are doing the right thing. You both need therapy. A professional can help you process your feelings. Hers and your therapist together can help you decide the best course of action for you and your daughter during this awful time. I'm so sorry you are all having to deal with this. You are absolutely not overreacting by putting her in therapy. This is a big deal for anyone, let alone a small child. You need professional help to assist her in navigating her feelings. You're doing the right things, and anyone who says otherwise is a knob. The fact that you care, are worried, and are taking steps to help your daughter is what makes you a good mom. Frankly, I'd be concerned if she wasn't bothered by her dad's medical state. Anyone can have an opinion, but no one knows your daughter the way you do. In this arena, their opinions are moot, not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom about my stepfather's affair after catching him with another woman? I'm really struggling with whether I did the right thing or not, and now my family feels like it's falling apart. This happened a few nights ago, and I can't stop thinking about it. So I-32 female was invited out to dinner by a coworker. She's new at my job, and we've been getting along pretty well. So when she asked me to come celebrate her birthday, I figured why not? We went to this nice restaurant, like one of those fancy places I usually wouldn't go to unless it's for something special. While we're eating, I spot someone across the room who looks really familiar. It took me a second, but I realized it was my stepdad, 50 male. That alone threw me off, because he was supposed to be out of town for a business meeting that night. My mom, 58 female, even mentioned earlier in the day that he had a big work thing and wouldn't be home until the weekend. At first, I thought maybe his trip got canceled and he was having dinner with a colleague or something. But then I noticed the woman he was with. She was way younger than him and dressed really, let's just say, not professional. They were sitting close together, laughing and being super touchy. My stomach was already in knots, but then he leaned in and kissed her. Not a friendly kiss, a full-on romantic kiss. I felt like the room was spinning. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I didn't know what to do, so I pulled out my phone and started recording. I wasn't even thinking clearly, but I knew my mom would never believe me if I just told her. My stepdad has always been the perfect husband in her eyes, and she trusts him completely. After they finished their meal, they left together. I didn't follow them. I couldn't handle seeing anymore. I just sat there for the rest of the night trying not to cry and barely touched my food. When I got home, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying what I saw in my head and trying to figure out what to do. A little background, my mom and stepdad have been married for 15 years. He's been in my life since I was a teenager and has always been a father figure to me and my younger brother, 27 male. But over the years, I've heard rumors about him cheating. My mom always brushed them off, saying people just like to gossip because they were jealous of their relationship. I debated all night about whether to tell her. Part of me wanted to pretend I didn't see anything, but I knew I couldn't live with myself if I kept quiet. So, I showed her the video. She didn't cry right away. She just stared at the screen, like she was trying to process what she was seeing. Then she thanked me for telling her, and we just sat in silence for what felt like forever. The next day, she confronted my stepdad. He tried to deny it at first, saying I must have misunderstood or taken things out of context. But when she mentioned the video, he couldn't come up with any more excuses. He packed a bag and left the house. Now my mom is devastated. She hasn't eaten much, barely sleeps, and I feel awful for being the one to shatter her world like this. To make things worse, my brother is furious with me. He says I should have minded my own business and let them work things out on their own. He thinks I made everything worse by showing her the video instead of confronting my stepdad first. Even some of my friends think I overstepped by recording him and exposing him like that. I thought I was doing the right thing by being honest with my mom, but now I'm second-guessing everything. Was I wrong to get involved? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I'm sorry, little bro. Should you have let this man just keep on cheating on your mom? Heck no. She needed to know what kind of a-hole she was married to. She absolutely needed to know, even if my brother says otherwise. I don't know. Not the a-hole. He was cheating. He got caught. The best thing you can do right now is support your mom in this difficult time for her. You didn't ruin the relationship. Your stepdad did. Your brother is an a-hole for telling you that you should have kept quiet. I will always support my mom. She is anyways better off without him. He is an a-hole. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my girlfriend after she said my vulnerability made her feel unsafe? I'm 28 and had been dating my girlfriend, 26, for about a year and some change. I really thought we were on the same page. We had a great connection and genuinely enjoyed each other's company. But over the past month, I started noticing something just a little off in the relationship. I don't know how else to describe it, just a weird vibe. There's been a lot of stress in my life recently. Work has been tough, I'm a teacher, and some family drama has been weighing on me. I'm usually the type to keep my problems to myself, but I've been making an effort to open up because I don't want to live that way anymore. A week ago, I decided to tell her how overwhelmed I've been and how hard it's been for me to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Her response was awful in my opinion. She said something like, "I don't want to sound harsh, but when you talk like this, I kind of feel unsafe. I need you to be strong. I can't deal with both your problems and mine." I tried to reassure her that just because I'm having a hard time doesn't mean I'm weak or incapable. I explained that being honest about my struggles was part of trusting her and that it took a lot for me to open up. She doubled down, saying, "Everyone has rough patches, but honestly, you just have to deal with it." I didn't argue with her at the moment because I was too stunned. But the more I thought about it, the worse it felt. I realized I don't want to be in a relationship where I have to bottle up my feelings just to fit into her idea of a strong man. That's not who I am, and it's not who I want to be. So last night, I ended things. She was really upset and accused me of throwing away a good relationship over a misunderstanding. She claimed I was punishing her for being honest. Now, some of my friends think I might have overreacted, but I really don't think I did. Now for the top comments. Nope, you didn't overreact. She wants. Who knows what she wants? But she clearly doesn't want a relationship with a true partner. Don't go back to her. Find someone who sees the strength in your vulnerability, a partner who listens, comforts, and encourages you, not someone who criticizes you and politely tells you to shut up. You deserve better. Let her go. Yes, that's exactly it. Imagine being in a relationship where you can't even share your feelings with your partner or spouse. I wonder if she applies the same logic to herself. Does she think she's not allowed to share her feelings either? Maybe it's an upbringing thing. And this is exactly why guys don't fully open up. Not the a-hole. Some of us care and we listen though. It's a give and take. Not all girlfriends are like that. I'm certainly not. Yeah, I tell women that if their boyfriend or husband is emotionally closed off, they should ask themselves if they're the kind of person who truly wants to hear it. Because maybe he's that way due to reaction like OP's girlfriends, or because his vulnerability was used against him in previous relationships. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife I did not hide from her that my sister was in fact my stepsister? My wife and I have been married for 3 years and together for 7. For context, my biological mom sadly passed away during childbirth. And a couple of years later, my dad married my stepmom, who had a 1-year-old daughter. My stepmom's husband had also tragically passed when her daughter was only a couple of months old. All that being said, for all intents and purposes, my stepmom is my mom, and my stepsister is my sister, as they've been in my life since I was very young. While I was happy that my dad and stepmom loved each other deeply and bonded over shared grief, it also led to them neglecting both me and my sister to some extent. Ever since kindergarten, my sister and I have had to rely on each other a lot, which has created a strong bond that continues to this day. My wife is friends with my sister and has always thought our sibling bond was sweet. However, last week, she found out that my sister is technically my stepsister, and she freaked out. She asked why I had hidden this from her for so long. I explained that I hadn't hidden anything, it just never occurred to me to bring it up because it wasn't relevant in my mind. My wife then said that a lot of things my stepsister and I do are normal if we're biological siblings, but they seem weird since we're step-siblings. She claimed my stepsister is too clingy to me, and that it's odd for step-siblings to have such a close relationship. I told my wife to get her head checked, which was admittedly harsh, but I thought what she was saying was absolutely ridiculous. Am I the a-hole? Does your wife often watch videos on the P-Hub? Because unless she's getting stuck in a washing machine often and calling you over for help, I'm not sure what could be so strange about your sibling relationship. It's honestly so annoying, like it doesn't just automatically make everything hotter, quite the opposite. But I guess they have the data, lol. Not the a-hole. While I do think it's a bit odd that this never came up even once in 7 years, it's nothing to get mad over. It sounds like your wife places way too much emphasis on blood relation. Saying your bond is only okay if you're biologically related is just bizarre. She's getting hung up on semantics here. I could understand mild confusion about why it never came up, but definitely not anger. It might be misplaced anger and shock at not knowing something so basic. The closeness of your sibling relationship isn't a problem. If anything, it's surprising she didn't know about your mom's passing earlier in the relationship. The wife's reaction seems more about her expectations of family dynamics than any real issue. It's a strong bond regardless of labels. It speaks volumes about your relationship. That your wife didn't know your biological mom died and your dad remarried. That's fundamental stuff. My wife and I know everything about each other's histories. There's literally nothing left to say. I find it odd that you two never discussed this before. But hey, that's probably why you're dealing with such a strange reaction now. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not dropping out of a house party despite it making my ex's new fiancé uncomfortable? My ex 27 male and I 26 female split 2 years ago. We met through my best friend who worked in the same theater as him at a time. The reason we broke up was that he felt the relationship wasn't working anymore. It was pretty amicable. I didn't put up a fight or anything. But I strongly believed there was no reason for us to stay friends. That always causes problems. However, I'm still friendly with his friends and exchange pleasantries if I run into his parents. We live in a pretty close-knit environment. Don't ask me how, but most of my friends and his either went to the same university, share a common hobby, or just happen to overlap socially. As a result, we see each other once or twice every couple of months. My ex has a fiancé now, and I'm happy for them. I've never met her, and until now, I don't think that mattered. We're all adults, or so I thought. One of his closest friends, Peter, recently bought a house. I'm friends with Peter's girlfriend, so we were both invited to the housewarming. I didn't think much of it, but yesterday my ex texted me out of the blue after a year of no contact. He was polite, but asked if I could skip the housewarming since he was bringing his fiancée and she would feel uncomfortable. His wording struck me as odd, so I called him. During the call, he explained that his fiancée feels uncomfortable being around me and thinks I sometimes intrude into their social gatherings to prove I'm better than her to his friends. Hearing this made me mad. I asked him how exactly I was doing that, since we aren't friends. And I stopped hanging out with the circle after our breakup to avoid making things awkward for him. I pointed out that any mutual friends I've maintained are people I grew close to independently, and their opinions of her have nothing to do with me. My ex explained that 2 of his friends don't like or respect his fiancée and think she's an airhead. This includes Peter. Even his parents share the same view. He suggested that my presence exacerbates this issue. I told him that's not my fault his friends or family hold those opinions, and that it sounds like he's being a spineless boyfriend. I firmly told him Peter and his girlfriend are my friends, and that I would be attending the housewarming. His relationship issues aren't my responsibility. After the call, I blocked him. Later, his fiancée sent me a long text apologizing, but also accusing me of being vindictive. She claimed it shouldn't matter to me whether I skipped the housewarming and asked me to respect her and avoid causing drama. I didn't respond and blocked her as well. My friends are furious with my ex, but I haven't told Peter or his girlfriend about any of this yet. I'm starting to wonder if I could have handled the situation differently. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. You were not the a-hole here. You're allowed to go to a friend's party, and it's not your responsibility to manage their insecurities. If I were OP, my responses to ex would be blunt and probably brutal along the lines of, if your fiancé is uncomfortable, it is her responsibility as an adult to remove herself from that situation. Considering first of all that she did not do that, and secondly, thought it was okay to have you call your ex and demand she nags on an accepted invite? I am beginning to get why your friends do not like her. But I am an a-hole. OP should probably not listen to me. That's far more polite than I would have been. My response would be, not my problem your girlfriend is immature and childish. Her insecurities are your problem, not mine, and I don't care. See ya. Not the a-hole, but you should tell Peter and his girlfriend. Your ex and his fiancé are pricks. It is not your job to manage their emotions or insecurities. If she's uncomfortable, then she should stay home. I agree. Peter should be told before the ex has a chance to spin this and make OP the bad guy. Peter is one of those people who doesn't like her. Our circle is mainly filled with people who mix within a certain type of bookish thinking. Plus, Peter and another of my ex's friends think she is anti-intellectual. Most of my ex's friends are like that, theater people or really pretentious a-holes. Peter doesn't like her more because he thinks my ex was stupid to break up with me and couldn't handle it if I was doing better than him. Their friendship is already on thin ice, and I don't want to be the reason it breaks. You won't be the reason. The ex and girlfriend will be the reason. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my girlfriend drive my car because she's totaled 2 cars before? I, 24 male, recently bought my first nice car, a 2019 Mazda 3. It's not a luxury car, but I worked my butt for it. I saved for years, drove beaters while working 2 jobs, and finally getting this car felt like a reward for all my hard work. I take care of it meticulously. I wash it every weekend, never let the gas tank get below half, and park far away from everyone else in the parking lots like a total dork. Here's the issue. My girlfriend Emily, 24 female, wants to drive it. I love Emily, but she is the single worst driver I've ever met. And I'm not exaggerating. 1, she's totaled 2 cars in the past 2 years. The first was because she misjudged the distance while merging on the highway. The second, she reversed into a light pole in an empty parking lot. 2, she tailgates like crazy. I've had to tell her multiple times to back off from the car in front of us when I'm in the passenger seat because it feels like we're going to crash. 3, she admitted she doesn't like paying attention while driving because it's boring. I wish I were kidding. I let her drive my old car once, a 15-year-old Civic I wasn't too attached to, and she managed to scrape it pulling into a gas station. After that, I said I'd never let her drive my car again, and we both kind of laughed it off. Now that I have this car, she keeps asking to drive it. At first it was playful, stuff like, "Let me take it for a spin," and I just said no with a laugh. But recently she's been getting more annoyed. She says things like, "You act like I'm going to crash it or something." And, well, yeah. The other day, while driving to dinner, me driving obviously, she brought it up again. She said it's weird that I won't let my own girlfriend drive my car, and it makes her feel like I don't trust her. I told her straight up, it's not that I don't trust you, it's that I've seen you drive, and I can't afford to have this car wrecked. She got quiet and didn't say much for the rest of the night. Later, she told me I embarrassed her and made her feel incompetent. I said I wasn't trying to embarrass her, but she has totaled 2 cars. She said I should get over it because accidents happen and that I'm being controlling. Now, she's retaliating by not letting me use her PC, claiming I might break it even though I've never done anything to warrant that. I honestly think it's childish. Am I the a-hole? My sister has been in 7 car collisions. None her fault, not even when she destroyed our mom's garage. It jumped out at her. Some people really don't understand driving. Like your girlfriend, some people will contrive any reason not to be at fault. Consider whether she does this in other areas of her life. Is she ever at fault for anything that goes wrong? Is she capable of admitting responsibility in any context? And of course, not the a-hole. I would never entrust anyone I cared about to be driven by this person. I find it hard to believe that someone who says they find paying attention while driving boring isn't awful in other ways. But you do you, OP, I guess. The thought of someone driving a 2-ton missile and not paying attention because it's boring is terrifying. Not the a-hole. Not only is she a bad driver, but she refuses to take any responsibility. Both of her major accidents were entirely her fault, but you should get over it. You'd be crazy to let her drive. Given her retaliation with her PC, you also need to evaluate whether you'd be crazy to stick with her. Yeah, I'd question staying in a relationship with someone who doesn't like paying attention while driving and has crashed multiple times. She doesn't respect her own life, and certainly doesn't respect anyone else's. She's a risk to herself and others, and that should be a major turnoff. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to share my homemade meals with my roommate's boyfriend? I, 25 female, have a roommate, Sarah, 26 female, who recently started dating this guy, Tom, 28 male. I cook most of my meals from scratch because I enjoy it, and it's cheaper and healthier for me. Sarah's fine with it, and occasionally I'll share leftovers with her when I make extra. No problem. Lately though, Tom has started coming over more often, almost daily, and has been helping himself to my food. He doesn't ask, doesn't contribute groceries, and never says thank you. At first I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be rude, but last week I came home to find he'd eaten an entire portion of food I'd prepped for my next day's lunch. I finally confronted Sarah about it and told her I didn't appreciate Tom eating my food. She brushed it off, saying he's just comfortable here and that it's not a big deal. I told her it is a big deal because I budget and plan my meals. And if he's eating my food, it throws everything off. I made it clear I wouldn't be sharing anymore and asked her to let Tom know. Fast forward to yesterday, I made a pot of chili and Tom came over while I was out. When I got back, a big chunk of it was gone. I was furious and told Sarah this was exactly what I was talking about, and it needed to stop. Sarah said I was overreacting and called me stingy for not sharing food when it's just a couple of bites. Spoiler, it's not. I told her I'm not her boyfriend's chef and that I don't owe him free meals. Now things are tense, and Sarah's acting like I'm the bad guy. Tom hasn't said anything directly, but I can tell Sarah told him because he's been giving me the cold shoulder. I'm starting to feel guilty, but I don't think I'm wrong for wanting boundaries here. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, period. Tom sounds like an a-hole and a mooch. You should tell Tom directly that he needs to stop eating someone else's food. You've done nothing wrong. Don't let Tom or Sarah quietly act superior. Confront them both together and tell them exactly what you've laid out here. Expect him to behave like a grown adult and stop stealing food. Sounds like Tom needs to stop being in the apartment at all. You live there and pay rent. He doesn't. If he's making you uncomfortable, he's got to go. First, stop worrying about being rude. You need to be rude. You need to tell Tom to stop being a damn mooch and that he owes you X for the food he's already stolen from you. Do not back down from this. Way too many women are raised to always be nice and don't be rude and don't make waves. Yeah, that's BS. Stand up for yourself in no uncertain terms. He's not a mooch, he's a thief. Mooches at least ask.